Hi everyone, this is Blake Anderson and I'm a registered social worker and therapist here in Toronto, Ontario. And in this video, I'm going to be covering my top 20 tips that I'll be covering as part of my Scapegoat recovery program. And so this is also to do with those on the receiving of narcissistic abuse. I'll be talking about the number 2 tip. And so that has to do with understanding how, like, somatic practices. And so understanding not just the intellect in terms of maybe doing therapy or analyzing the situation, but really thinking about how the body keeps a score, and there can be this sense of complex trauma being localized or stored in the body. I'll be talking about different resources and strategies that you can consider when thinking about a somatic practice and how this can help you in your journey and your recovery. Stay tuned as I cover somatic practices in this video. So the number 2 practice I'm going to recommend is the notion of doing somatic work. So this is body work that you're incorporating into your life. And at the basics, this means understanding that trauma often gets localized in the body, and that talk therapy often isn't enough in terms of getting at some of the core trauma that can occur within the body. And so obviously talk therapy, it's helpful to intellectually understand and to analyze the dynamics within your family and in yourself. But it's also important to recognize that often trauma does get localized and embedded in the body. And so by doing somatic practices, you're tapping into more embodied exercises in order to really get at the core of the trauma. And so in this regard, there is a book that often people will reference. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's a little more, scientific and rigorous in a lot of ways. But in the book, it does recommend different practices and approaches in terms of understanding how to get trauma or how to address it within your life. And I'll also recommend a book called so Trauma and the Unbound Body is a book that looks into, it's more spiritual and meditative. She has a whole approach in terms of understanding what she, I believe, calls spirit, or this kind of unbounded nature of oneself, and also using that ground to focus and put your awareness on different aspects of the body. And she has different strategies and approaches. And it's, I would say, more, well, I don't say it's more advanced, but it's definitely, I would say, more, if you want to get, I think, a really good approach, I would definitely encourage you to check that out. If you can obviously get over the sense of maybe it being spiritual, if you're not necessarily spiritual per se, but I think there's definitely a lot of tips in that book that can help you as well. And other books that, or resources I'd recommend is, there's the notion online, there's a website program that's called the Primal Trust, and this is something I would just check out. It's, obviously you have to pay for it, it's not cheap, but I've heard good reviews about it, and it's backed by evidence, so that's another resource I would check out. And there's also just reminders of body exercises like yoga, cardio, heavy, like lifting weights, and just ensuring that you're keeping your diet healthy, your sleep healthy, because often if you're interacting with dysfunctional family dynamics, often your body is going to show you signs, or your immune system is going to often give you signs when you're engaging in an unhealthy dynamic in your family, and or just the way that you're approaching it. And so by tuning in with your body, doing these exercises, doing a little more research in somatic exercises, checking out some of those resources I mentioned, you're going to be on your way to be addressing this in your body. As a general principle, I would encourage you to set time, either on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, to do a meditation, a body scanning exercise, and take some time to focus in on getting an understanding of your body, where you might hold certain stuckness and certain tightness in your body, and then putting awareness and doing these different practices within these books and within the report that I provide here to get at really unbounding yourself from these traumas in the body. People also that have complex trauma will do EMDR, and I'm not specialized in that area, but definitely you could go to a therapist that could specialize. There's different approaches in terms of it. It's really doing tapping and eye movement and different approaches to get at helping you unleash the trauma from yourself. And so EMDR is a method that often will be used with different therapists in terms of helping the client in terms of trauma in the body. And brain spotting is another approach that I've come across. I myself don't specialize in that area, but it's definitely something to look into if you're interested in that. And that again has similarities to EMDR, but it's different in a way as well. But again, the core of it in a somatic approach is to understand that intellectually or just through talk therapy, you're not entirely going to likely get at the aspects of the entirety of the trauma, that there's a notion that it's subconscious and it's also embodied within oneself from childhood, and that in order for us to survive and to adapt, we may have had to suppress these the stressors, and our minds are at a younger age wasn't able to really address some of these traumas that were occurring, so we might have suppressed it and it shows up in our body later on in our adulthood. So it's definitely something to think about in terms of how to heal from trauma.